The situation in the U.S. is entrenched in the history of that country. There are hundreds of other examples of Black Americans being unjustly killed. As Mike Le Couteur explains, the U.S. may now be at a boiling point.
The scenes are shocking, but too familiar to so many people.
The police don't care about us. They knew exactly what they were doing in Minneapolis. And at the end of the day, we had to fight for what's right for us.
There's a long list of names and places that stain our history of race relations. Rodney King in Los Angeles, Trayvon Martin in Florida, Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri. But it's not just an American problem. In 2016, Abdirahman Abdi died after what witnesses described as a violent arrest by Ottawa police. Now, the protests that followed every one of those incidents and now George Floyd's death are a manifestation of built-up anger in those communities, according to Floyd's family lawyer.
He's just the latest tipping point in a string of killings of unarmed Black people at the hands, or should I say, in his case, the knee of the police.
I'm tired of it, man. I understand, Black every day. I understand.
This exchange between 3 generations of Black men in Charlotte, North Carolina Saturday night is an example of the ongoing struggle in communities across North America. A 46-year-old man argues with 31-year-old Curtis Hayes Jr.
I needed to let him know right then and there that people hear you. I hear you, Black man. I am in the same boat that you are. You are an elder of mine. You have fought the same fight that I am fighting right here with you.
But then Hayes brought a 16-year-old protester into the discussion, not to fan the flames of anger, but rather to find a different path forward so the teen wouldn't feel the same frustration in another 10 years.
Putting yourself in harm's way is not the way.
No, it's not.
You and the other your counterparts the same nation that has that same power. Y'all coming with a better way. Because we ain't doing it. That's 3 generations right there that is on that bridge fighting for the same thing that my ancestors fought for. And those 3 generations sat there 100 years ago in the same aspect, in the same chaos, in the same America.
But there are signs of hope.
I took the helmet off and laid the batons down. I want to make this a parade.
In Flint, Michigan, Saturday night, instead of cracking down on protesters, the local sheriff tried to lift them up.
Walk with us! Walk with us!
So Sheriff Chris Swanson did, taking a small step to perhaps a better future. Mike Le Couteur, Global News.
Canada is not immune to issues of race. There is systemic racism facing our Indigenous populations, Asian communities, and African Canadians. And tonight, there are protests taking place in major cities in this country. Our Mike Armstrong is in Montreal, where a demonstration has just begun. Mike, is it peaceful, and what kind of police presence is there?
It is very peaceful at this point. The chant we've just heard moments ago was "It's enough." This event was called by 3 organizations here in Montreal, 2 Black community groups and a 3rd group that fights police brutality. A Montreal study last year looked at police interceptions over the course of 4 years, from 2014 to 2017. Those are incidents where people were stopped but not charged or ticketed. It found Black and Indigenous people were 4 times more likely to be stopped by police than white people. Arab people are twice as likely to be stopped. And the trends, by the way, weren't improving over time. Over that time, those 4 years, they were actually getting worse. Now, we spoke to one of the organizers earlier today. She said they called this protest despite COVID-19. They asked participants to bring masks and brought some to pass out. They've also asked people to keep 2 meters apart, something that's hard to do in this crowd. But she said there is a movement out there right across North America, and they had to take to the streets to have their voices heard.
There's a lot of rage, there's a lot of frustration that is happening right now, and this is why we want to denounce it and not stay silent towards it, because silence will not bring anything.
Now, Montreal's had a lot of protests that started peacefully and turned violent in the past. A lot of them, you can see police are out in force tonight. We've been told by a source on the force that all 5 platoons of Montreal's riot squad are on duty tonight. We will see them if things degenerate. But for the protesters, for the organizers here today, they say The idea is to start the event here at Montreal Police Headquarters, to take to the streets peacefully, and if something does happen, they say it won't be on them, and they hope it doesn't take away from their message. Robin?
Mike Armstrong in Montreal. Thanks, Mike.